We're live. Hey, how's it going, everybody? Chuck Holton here, coming to you from Kiryat Shimona in northern Israel. And we came up here for a story I'm doing about people coming back to their homes in the north for the first time in 15 months. Today was supposed to be the day, I guess, that the government opened up the areas of the north that they've had closed off, and 60,000 people have been out of their homes for the last, ever since the war started, October 2023. They haven't been able to come back home because, he's playing music. I don't know. I probably can't. I got to be careful with music, get in trouble. But yeah, the people are, the 60,000 people that were pushed out of their homes are now allowed to come back, and they're not going to have to live in hotels anymore. These people have been living in hotels for, ever since the war started. You imagine, I've met a lot of families, Israeli families that are like, mom, dad, a couple kids, and I'm going to have to go somewhere where there's not music because this video will get demonetized in a minute. So I'll go in here. No, there's music in here too. Well, I'll take you on a little tour of this little hotel where I'm at. It's very nice. It's surprising. They just opened back up. Look at this place. Isn't it beautiful? It's a little kind of out in the country. I think it's on a kibbutz. I'm not positive. I've been basically doing live broadcasting ever since I got here, so haven't really had a chance to talk to everybody. I'm gonna have to go around here and sit in my backyard. They have these villas that they rent out. It has a bed upstairs and a kind of living area with a kitchenette, a bathroom, a sitting area, living room downstairs, and then they have a little deck with a hot tub out back behind each one of these places. So I'm gonna go in here. I'll show you the little villa they let me rent. And believe it or not, this place is full, which is really surprising to me, considering that it's the first day that people were coming back. But actually, people had been filtering back in here for a while. And so this is a little apartment, little kitchenette here. And then upstairs there is the bedroom. And they got a bathroom right here. So I'm going to go out. I probably am moving too fast for you. I'm going to go out here on the patio. It's actually a pretty nice night out. And I'll turn there's the hot tub over there. Turn the camera back around here. So it gives you an idea of what it looks like here. Not bad. So just curious, what's the longest, not one stretch, but I mean, let's say in a year, how many days a year do you spend in a hotel? I'm just curious, because I've been in probably 15 hotels already this year. Usually in the last few years, I've been in maybe 200 hotels per year. Hang on a second, I might freeze up for a sec. I gotta put my phone on Do Not Disturb. There we go. Make that brighter. Okay. Yeah, I had to put my phone on Do Not Disturb. People always try to call and bump me off. So I'm just looking. A lot of people say no hotels. 0 days in hotels. Really? You guys don't go to hotels at all? Do you not take vacations? 20, 25 nights a year. That's interesting. Go ahead and hit the like button, folks. If you like this kind of content, you want to travel with me. That was kind of the reason I started the Hot Zone, is because I had so many people who said, "Oh man, I wish I could just carry your suitcase. I'd love to travel. It seems so glamorous." Well, it's not that glamorous. I've seen many people here, or several people, who have mentioned bed bugs. In spending 200 nights a year in hotels, some of them in war zones, and some of them I'd be lucky if they were like $9 a night hotels. That quality. I have never, not once, had bed bugs. Never seen them. I've found there was a guy who showed me one time, so I know what they look like, but I've never run into bed bugs in my hotel. Now, I have had bats and scorpions. I got bit by a scorpion one time when I stepped out of bed to go to the bathroom. I've had plenty of cockroaches, rats. I had a family of, believe it, this is no joke, had a family of raccoons in my hotel room one night in Panama, because they were working on the bathroom and there was a hole in the floor where they were digging a new toilet or whatever. And in the middle of the night, these raccoons came through the hole in the floor into my bathroom, and I heard something, and I turned the light on, and there were like 4 raccoons sitting there looking at me in my hotel room. Fortunately, I like animals, so it didn't bother me that much, although I did throw a shoe at them, and they went away. But I've actually woken up to have mice chewing on my finger in hotel rooms before. So, if you're going to do the kind of travel I do, you can't be squeamish, that's for sure. Well, anyway, hopefully tonight's hotel won't be anywhere near that bad. And as I've gotten older, I've gotten a little better at choosing them as well. And I'm not quite as money conscious as I once was. So I'd rather spend a little more and get a little better hotel nowadays than try to go super cheap. Sometimes you don't have a choice, and I don't mind sleeping in the back of a car if I have to. I mean, there have been times where I would rather sleep in the in my rental car than sleep in the hotel offerings that were available to me. And there's a secret. If you ever have to sleep in your rental car, and it's not an SUV or something, the best way to do that is to put down the back seats, because in most modern automobiles, even if it's a coupe with a trunk, you can put the back seats down, and then you actually have a bed big enough to lay out on by laying your feet into the trunk and stacking your luggage and stuff in the front seat. But I always leave the driver's seat open and ready to go, especially if I'm sleeping back there with the seat down, so I can jump over the seat and take off if I need to, if I'm sleeping on the side of the road. So there's travel tips from Chuck Holton. Follow me for more travel advice on how to deal with mice chewing on your fingers while you're trying to sleep. When that happened, I had to get up, find my combat knife, and hunt that rat down and skewer that thing, and then tack its hide to the wall as a warning to all the other rats before I could go back to sleep. I'd rather not repeat that. Rather not do that again. Anyway, so like I said, I am in Kiryat Shimona tonight. If you look at a map, that's in the panhandle of Israel, right up in the very far northern tip. And I have been to Kiryat Shimona many times during the war. Most of every time I've been here except for this time, it's been a ghost town. It's been an absolute ghost town. There have been attacks virtually every time I've been here, both drones, indirect fire, anti-tank rockets, missiles, all that stuff coming in here from Lebanon, which is just that way, a couple of miles. Lebanon is so close, and Kiryat Shimona sits down at the bottom of an escarpment of a hill, and Lebanon's up on the top of the hill. So they could fire down on Kiryat Shimona, and you would have only seconds to take cover. If you have been following the hot zone for some time, you might remember when Oscar and I were here, and there were the air raid sirens kept going off, and we kept having to take cover, and then the air raid sirens would go away. We'd venture back out, continue with the live, then the siren would go off again, and I'd have to dive for cover again. We kept having to do that. It turned out it was drones coming from Lebanon. Well, all that has stopped. And so there's some good news for you today. If you complain that the news is nothing but bad news all the time, well, today we got some good news for you, and that is Kiryat Shimona is open for business once again. When I drove through downtown on my way here today, some of the stores were opening back up. Like there was a optical store, sunglasses and reading glasses and stuff that was open. Doctor's offices. The main hotel in downtown was being used to house troops, and now it's closed for renovations. What does that tell you about putting troops up in your hotel? I can guarantee you if they had put my Ranger unit up in a hotel for a year, they would have had to renovate that place too. So it is what it is, right? Somebody said they reopened Mount Hermon for skiing a couple days ago. Well, if that's the case, I'm going to go up there tomorrow, Eli. Ellie, probably Ellie, if you're here. I'll drive up there tomorrow and take a look at the ski resort if that's the case. But man, there was a ton of traffic coming through Kiryat Shimona. Couldn't believe all the cars, all the parking spaces were filled on Main Street. Now, not all the stores are open. There's still a lot that are boarded up. I saw quite a few actually that were still boarded up or had the big metal doors rolled down. And there are still scars of the war around town. You don't have to look too hard to find buildings that have been hit with rockets and shrapnel and stuff like that. You can still see scars on the hillside where there were fires from mortar rounds and stuff that were being fired over here. But all of that, for the time being, is over. And how exciting is that? I mean, to be able to come here and sit out here at a resort at a beautiful night. The temperature here is about probably 68 degrees, maybe 65 degrees tonight. Just very crisp and smells like springtime. Very nice. And I don't hear any air raid warnings. I don't hear any big bangs going off. I guess during the fighting, there was a military unit staying here that was an artillery unit, and their artillery pieces were just to the south of the campus that I'm on. And so they would run out there and fire off their guns. And I remember hearing those guns firing from over this direction, so I'm sure it was these guns that were parked here. Well, that's all gone. I saw a bunch of troops today, young men and women in uniform and out of uniform, but obviously soldiers, who were packed up, had their backpacks on, and were heading for the bus station. So they must be heading back home, wherever home is. And so that's good news. And as I drove through town today, it just, looking at the signs of life returning to Kiryat Shimona, I thought about our friend Scott Ritter and all of the doom and gloom that he was saying and may still be saying. The last time that I did a podcast about something he said, my Answering Idiots series, he was saying Israel is losing. They have lost. They've already lost. Their economy is crumbling. Their military is decimated, and they've lost this war, and it's over for Israel. Israel is going to collapse as a nation. And as I just drove through it, and it just made me smile seeing life coming back into this area. Israel is not dead. Israel is not crumbling. Their economy is going to come back very quickly. Their military won up here. This is really the only place where they can say that they have accomplished their military objectives in the war, up here in the north, because their military objective was to make it safe for the people to come back home in the north, and they have done so. Now, in the south, they still have work to do. In Gaza, it's a much more intractable problem that they're going to have to deal with probably forever. I don't know, many, many years. I interviewed Doron Kedar this morning, went down and met with him, my friend, Master Sergeant in a special operations unit with the IDF, who has spent probably most of the war in Gaza with his unit. And what I was asking him is, I said, Doron, since the IDF won't let me into Gaza, and they don't want, they don't want to be transparent about letting us in there. Tell us what Gaza actually looks like, and I'll air that interview later once we get it edited. But what he told me was there are still many places in Gaza that are completely intact. There are places that the IDF has moved through and has left intact for humanitarian reasons. There's large swaths of the country that they have marked off as humanitarian safe zones. And in those zones, they don't blow things up. They don't destroy things unless they are unless it's an absolute military necessity. Oftentimes, it does become a military necessity because the Hamas fighters start to shoot at them from these safe zones, and they have to shoot back. That's their policy. Many times, though, they won't. They'll track a vehicle full of Hamas fighters, and they'll be getting ready to drop a ordnance on those guys and give them a one-way ticket to Boomtown, and then it'll go into a parking garage and come back out again on the other side. But they have learned not to blow it up if that happens, because what Hamas does is they'll drive into these parking garages and get out and put a kid, like a 12-year-old, 13-year-old kid, in the truck and tell him, go drive this somewhere else. And when the kid drives out the other side, if Israel blows it up, then they say, oh, Israel's massacring children, and they know that's going to happen. So they don't play fair by any standard of decency whatsoever. And I mean, doing everything you can to win is one thing, but committing acts of heinous evil, you certainly cannot. Even if you did win, you cannot claim the moral high ground, moral victory. You've already lost. Israel. So Duran was telling me there are still a lot of places in Gaza that you wouldn't even hardly know there's a war on. As a matter of fact, just before I went live, I saw a video that was put out by Abu Ali on Telegram of Muslims or Palestinians in Gaza celebrating the end of the Ramadan fast last night. You know, at sunset each night, they fast all day long, and then at sunset they party. Right? That's the Muslim thing for Ramadan. They had a massive feast in Gaza. This was hundreds, maybe thousands of Palestinians seated at tables, piled with food, having a huge feast in Gaza right now, even as Israel has shut off new aid to go into Gaza. They're certainly not starving in Gaza. As a matter of fact, Duran told me that these guys are probably eating upwards of 2,700 to 3,000 calories a day, which is far more than you need to survive. And that's why he said a lot of the terrorists that we end up capturing or eliminating are overweight. You know, they're overweight. Oscar de la Blue in the house. How's it going, brother? Wish you were here. Uh, Oscar needs your support, folks. Go to Oscar's YouTube channel and support him over there, please, or go to the Buy Me a Coffee link and support Oscar, because I'm lonely without my buddy. He can't travel. He wasn't able to raise the money fast enough for a ticket to get over here to Israel with me this time, and so he's just going to have to suck it up. Now, he does want to go to Syria with me next month, and so there's the Buy Me a Coffee link that just went by on the chat. You can go find that if you want to help support Oscar in raising money to get a plane ticket to come to Syria with me in the middle of April. Now, something else that Doron Kedar said, which was echoed by the other interview I did today, I'll tell you about in a minute, is that most Israelis are saying, I mean, I think all Israelis understand that the two-state solution is a fiction. It's not just dead. It never was alive. It's a complete fabrication. It's a farce. It's a fiction. You cannot have a two-state solution with when one side is unwilling to be happy with their state. Two-state solution only works if both states are willing to stay within their boundaries. And he said, look, young or old, man or women, rich or poor, old or young, it doesn't matter. Everybody that he's run into in Gaza is pro-Hamas and anti-Israel. He said, they're really, every one of them is complicit in what's going on. And that's why you haven't seen anybody turning over hostages, even though there's a $5 million reward out to anybody who turns over one of the hostages out of Gaza. You understand what I'm saying? These people who are supposedly so destitute, so poor, they're starving to death in Gaza, right? They've been offered $5 million, a ticket out of Gaza, a new life, safety and security from the state of Israel. And all they have to do is turn over information that leads to the safe release of any of those hostages, and nobody has come forward and has come forward with actual actionable information. That's telling. That's telling. So there's no such thing as a two-state solution. It's not going to happen. Never will happen. The world keeps trying to make it happen, but if you follow this argument to its ultimate conclusion, the fact that neither side wants a two-state solution, what that means is that the Palestinians can no longer live in Gaza. When President Trump said that they should move all the Palestinians out of Gaza so that they can rebuild it, it actually wasn't as crazy an idea as many people thought it was. It's really the only idea that would actually bring a lasting peace. Because if the Palestinians are unwilling to change their worldview and make it about something other than who they hate, well, then there's never going to be peace between the Gazans and the Israelis. And so the Gazans, look, if you turned your country into a terrorist haven, you don't get to have a country anymore. That should be the rule. If your country is harboring terrorists, encouraging terrorists, facilitating attacks on your neighbors, then you don't get to have nice things. And that includes a country of your own. And so when you remember the horrors of October 7th and the tens of thousands of rockets that have been fired over the years out of Gaza, the flaming fire balloons that they've sent over, the times that they've shot at civilians and soldiers alike on the Israeli side of the fence, the various times that they have done everything from dig tunnels underneath to ram cars through the fence, to everything. When you have a people group that has made it clear, and to this day still makes it clear, that that's what they intend to keep doing, well, you don't get to have nice things. You don't merit a country of your own. And you should have to give up the land that you live in. Now, a lot of people say, well, where are they going to go? Egypt doesn't want them. Jordan doesn't want them. Saudi Arabia doesn't want them. Well, they could probably be persuaded, especially since Jordan relies on Israel for its survival. A large portion, about 40% of all their water comes from Israel. Jordan would dry up and die of thirst if it wasn't for their agreement that they have with Israel to provide them with fresh water. They also get billions of dollars a year from the U.S. taxpayer, and so does Egypt. And tariffs are apparently a thing with the new administration, so you could always throw a few tariffs in there for good measure. I'm sure that with the right mix of, incentives, whatever you want to call it, these countries could be persuaded to take the Palestinians. And if you think about it, 2.5 million people, it's not that much. We look at Syria. More than 7 million people have fled Syria during their civil war, and they're now all over the world. Same thing in Venezuela. About 7 million people have fled Venezuela, and they're now all over the world. Many of them are in the United States. Look at Ukraine. About 6 or 7 million people have fled Ukraine in the last 3 years. So it's certainly not out of the realm of possibility to relocate people from Gaza to other places. The problem is they don't want to go, and nobody wants to take them. That's the problem. So working on the motivation, finding the proper motivation for both the Palestinians and the receiving countries is the real challenge, and that's why this probably will never happen. But I'm not saying. I'm saying it really is the only way that Israel could be assured that they're not going to have another October 7th style attack at some point out of Gaza, because if you can't deport all of the people from Gaza, and you can't kill all the people in Gaza, and Gazans are 99.9% in favor of attacking Israel, even still, after all that's happened. Well, what else can you do? It's not an easy choice, but the choice is not Israel's. The fault is not Israel's either. They haven't, they're not at fault for causing this to begin with. Now, the other interview that I did, which I'm going to air tonight as a premiere, is I just finished interviewing Michelle Bachmann, former congresswoman, former presidential candidate, and now she's the dean of the School of Communications, I think, or something like that at Regent University, and is a great friend to Israel. She actually lived in Kibbutz Be'eri back in the 1970s. And she was telling me, it was wild. She was telling me, yeah, back then Israel was a third world country. And when we had our days off, we at the kibbutz, we spent our time picking the weeds, pulling weeds, working on the farm, taking care of the animals, everything like that. And when we had a day off, we would get in this old school bus and we would just drive 15, 20 minutes over to the beach in Gaza, and we'd go swimming on the beach in our bathing suits with the Palestinians in Gaza. That was in the 1970s. And she said it wasn't a problem. Back then, the Palestinians, for the most part, lived somewhat peaceably in Gaza with Israeli troops policing the area. And it wasn't until this radical ideology started seeping in and turning everybody, everybody's hearts just black with hatred, that things really started to go south. But how do you reverse that? That's the question. Well, changing people's hearts is what Christ does best. And they need Jesus. That's what they need. So my discussion with Michelle Bachmann was very insightful, really interesting. She's an incredibly intelligent woman and very well spoken. And so you're going to really want to watch the video when I put it up tonight with Michelle. Now, question, couldn't they send the Gazans to Iran? Well, let's talk about that for a minute. Where could they send them? There are already millions of Palestinians in Jordan. Jordan is it is the Palestinian state. But the Jordanian leadership really, really, really doesn't want more Palestinians because they tend to be kind of troublemakers. The president himself is Bedouin, not Palestinian. The president's wife, Queen, what is her name? Queen Aliyah, is Palestinian. But upsetting that political balance, that demographic balance in Jordan would be tumultuous for Jordan, for sure. Same with Egypt. Egyptians don't get along with Palestinians very well. You know what I was thinking? I mean, I don't know how you would coerce the Palestinians into going, but if you could convince them to leave Gaza, like if you stay in Gaza, you're going to starve to death because there's no food here, there's no water here, there's no medical care here, there's no electricity here, and there won't be for the next few years while we rebuild. And so it's a choice of leave or die, then maybe they would leave, maybe. But if you got them to agree to leave, what the best thing you could do would be pull up, go find an old cruise ship or 10 and pull these cruise ships up, fill them up with Palestinians, motor all the way around, out into the Atlantic and down around and back in, and take them to Yemen and drop them off in Yemen. Yemen's got lots of open land, lots. There's not much there, but there's not much in Gaza either, so they'd be used to it. I saw somebody point out that there's an island off the coast of, I want to say Saudi Arabia, that is big enough to easily house 2.5 million people. It's lush, it's green, it has a lot of resources, it's got plenty of water, it's very sparsely inhabited, and that would be a great place to put them. They'd have a water moat around their island, and you just send them out there. All of this is sort of a fool's errand, though, because it's just not going to happen. The Gazans are not going to agree to leave. I would love to see it happen, but it's not reasonable to believe at this point that it will, at least not anytime in the near future. Somebody's asking if I am going back to Jordan. Not this trip. This is a short trip for me. I'm only here for like 10 days. So, no, I'm not going to be going back to Jordan. A lot of Palestinians come from Egypt, but they have a completely different ideology now. So they may have Egyptian DNA, but they don't have Egyptian ideology, and that would cause some friction. Maybe they could send them to someplace like Indonesia. Canada has agreed to take some Gazans. That's it. Let's send them all to Canada. Put them in some northern part, like up near Nova Scotia up there. There's a lot of uninhabited islands up there. Give them an island up there. Let them figure out how to farm When you have 6 weeks a year of sun and put them up there. I don't know. Like I say, it's a look. There's the Canadians going no. Yeah. Well, like I said, this is all just a fun thought experiment, but it's not going to happen. So to recap, I came up to the north today because there have been 60,000 people pushed out of their homes in the north since the beginning of the war. Israel kind of cordoned off a 5 kilometer zone from the border, and anybody that lived closer to the border than 5 kilometers was evacuated and put up in hotels all over Israel. And they've been in those hotels ever since. Some of them were living with family or decided to go, get an apartment or whatever, but a lot of them just stayed in these hotels and the government paid for it. But can you imagine how terrible it would be? I mean, it's fun to go stay in a nice hotel once in a while, have a romantic getaway with your spouse or something. But to live in a hotel, the same hotel, in the same spot, and not be able to work and not be able to send your kids off to school for 15 months would be like I'd be ready to drive my car off a bridge. It'd be terrible. So those Israelis are now being told that they can return to their homes. And I came up here to Kiryat Shimona to find out what that would look like. Right across from the CBN offices in Jerusalem is the Cassia Hotel. It's a nice 5-star hotel. It's got a nice pool, really good gym, and excellent food. And the rooms are nice too. It's 60,000 people, 66,000 people, they said, not households. How many have returned? I don't think we could say just yet. I wouldn't say anywhere near all of them. I'd say maybe 20%, if I had to guess. Today was the first day that they were officially allowed to come back. Now, some of them have been coming back for the last month. This hotel that I'm at, resort thing, whatever this is called, the owners were telling me that they came back and reopened this place a month ago, and they said you should have seen it. It was just all overgrown, all dirty. It's been closed for more than a year. And not closed, but they had soldiers living here, and so it was just a wreck. So they're, chopping back all the overgrown bushes and mowing the lawn, and they have a swimming pool that's open. There were a couple of kids over there today swimming in the swimming pool, which is awesome. They're doing some construction, renovating, and fixing things up. Here in a few minutes, they're going to have a nice dinner in the little restaurant they've got over here. And this is really good sign. It's a really good sign. This place is completely full tonight. I got the last room because there's a group of women that have come up here just to get away with a group of friends. And so they are, back open for business. And it's really good to see. So I was saying at the Cassia Hotel, that hotel since the beginning of the war has been full of refugees from Kiryat Shimona. So we've taken them Hanukkah gifts. Let's see, in 2023, my wife was here, and you guys donated, and we bought presents for all the kids that were stuck there, little soccer balls and teddy bears and stuff, and took them over there and gave them out with some coloring books and things. They were very, very grateful for that. And now those families are able to come home. This morning, there was tour buses out in front of the Cassia, which I'm assuming were loading people up to bring them back home up here. And that's some good news. Now, there's obviously still, that doesn't mean that there's no threat from Lebanon. There still is. As a matter of fact, as I'm speaking, there's a military helicopter, it's a Black Hawk by the sound of it, that's flying overhead. Earlier tonight, when I first got here, before it got dark, I could hear a drone going overhead. So they're still up there circling, keeping an eye on things. And so the threat is not gone completely. Israel has been vigorously bombing military targets and threats inside Lebanon for the last 2 months plus, since the ceasefire up there took effect. Again, just for those of you that aren't regular viewers, that ceasefire was not a ceasefire with Hezbollah. It was a ceasefire between the United States, Israel, and the Lebanese government. And Lebanese, other than Israel, neither of those were actual belligerents in the conflict. But does the United States still have multi-force observers camps in Egypt? I believe so, but I could be wrong about that. That's a good question. Somebody Google that. Are there MFO camps in the Sinai still? You know, come to think of it, I think I heard that they had shut those down several years ago, but I could be wrong about that. I'm just not sure. Anyway, so yeah, I did see several military helicopters going over. They are holding large-scale military exercises in Galilee this week, and they put out the word warning everybody, hey, don't freak out if you hear shooting and explosions and stuff in Galilee, because we're going to be doing some training out there. And that may be what I'm hearing with these helicopters. We're close enough that we would hear them. I saw what looked like an HH-53 helicopter going by overhead earlier today, but I'm not positive that's what it was. It was pretty far away. An HH-53, I don't think the Israelis have any of those, but this one was definitely an Israeli helicopter. It was painted with Israeli markings. That's why I was like, what kind of helicopter is that? Very large cargo helicopter. It was pretty far away. And then I saw a Black Hawk as well as I was driving up here go by. So, and I know they have Black Hawks, obviously. They buy those from the United States. So I saw a long question go by here, and I'm going to scroll back. Do you think that Gazans will become more inclined to leave with the cutoff of aid, electricity, and water from Israel? Well, your second part of that question, and if they bomb remaining buildings, is probably more likely. Israel is likely going to collapse most of the remaining buildings, many of the remaining buildings, at least, in Gaza when they go back to fighting. They will likely go back to fighting in the next 10 days, unless, I'd say next week even, unless Hamas chooses to give up some more of the hostages. Now, they will not give up all of them. Hamas is not going to be persuaded to give up all the hostages because that's their only leverage, right? It's their only weapon to use against Israel as far as a deterrent right now. But Israel is making preparations to go hard in Gaza, and that will likely happen very soon. So, Scott Ritter, if you're listening, you're a dolt, because Israel is not destroyed. Israel is not, their military is not crushed. Their people are strong. They are coming back. This area in the north is not destroyed. It's blossoming with the springtime. By summertime, you probably will not be able to tell that there was ever a war here. They will very quickly get this place cleaned up. It's not bombed out to the extent where, every other house is destroyed or anything like that. If you drive through town, unless you were looking for the signs and knew what to look for, you might not even notice much of the damage that was sustained in Kiryat Shimona. So after more than a year of Kiryat Shimona being the most attacked city in Israel, 99% of Kiryat Shemona is still intact and ready to be open for business once again. This is the reality of war in Israel. A lot of people, when you watch on the news and the news only reports the things that go wrong and not the things that go right, you get a skewed sense of the truth. And so when the only thing you're seeing out of Israel are the places that got blown up, are the people who were killed, are the pain and suffering, whatever. You don't have any context to put that in if you don't come here and see the reality of it for yourself. So what I'm trying to tell you about is the reality that even this city, which was the most destroyed city in all of Israel, major city, and about 30,000 people that lived here, is coming back to life in very short order. There are restaurants open. I'm at a resort hotel here tonight. The grocery stores are open. The gas stations never closed. And it's coming back to life. So what Scott Ritter said was 100% wrong, as usual. Am I doing work for CBN? Yes, I am. Making packages for CBN and Newsmax as well while I'm out here. Question, what is Scott's motive to his lies? Well, he's built a following on those lies, and so he doesn't want to give that up. It started with the war in Ukraine. He's been about 90% wrong on everything he said about the war in Ukraine as well. The things that he's saying are 100% Russian propaganda talking points. And if you look at this war here in Israel, the things that Scott Ritter is saying are still Russian propaganda talking points, because Russia has been supporting Hamas and Hezbollah in this war. Now, I think Russia is seeing the writing on the wall in terms of who's the winner of this conflict. And so they have been reaching out with an olive branch to Israel, even inviting Israel to visit Moscow for their Victory Day parades that take place every May. They have done that before, but if I was Benjamin Netanyahu, I'd be like, seriously? You guys armed Hezbollah, helped arm and train the Hamas fighters who went in on October 7th. There's some belief among Israelis that there were Russian advisors present on October 7th during the attacks. There is a very bright line linking the planning and pre-execution phase of this conflict to Russia. And now Russia is reaching out to Israel and trying to say, hey, let's be friends. Can't we all just get along? Yeah, that's kind of gross. So I'm happy to bring good news when there is good news to tell. And I don't want to be the guy who's trying to sensationalize the bad news all the time in order to get clicks or views. The longer I do this, the more I realize it's just not worth trying to. I mean, look, Ritter found out, a lot of people have found out, you can build a very big following as somebody who just whips up conflict, somebody who stirs the pot, somebody who goes as far out as they can get on the left or the right, takes very extreme positions. You can actually draw a big following that way. I learned that when I was working for the National Rifle Association. But it just wasn't me. I spend too much time outside the U.S. on the ground, seeing the truth of what's going on, and I can't look myself in the mirror if I'm lying to you. So if there's good news, I'm going to tell you there's good news, and happy for it. I wish I could bring you nothing but good news. I would love nothing more than to be put out of a job as a war correspondent because there were no more wars. But unfortunately, I think I've got pretty good job security now. So folks, we got 2,000 people online. Please hit that like button. Let's at least get over 1,000 likes on this. And I know that when I'm watching a video and I get into it, I always forget to go hit that live. So here's your friendly reminder. Don't talk about crispy fish tacos, please. Oh, I love tacos. Here's your reminder to go hit that like button. Just take a second. You don't have to stop the video. Just go over there and punch that like button. And it does make a difference to tell YouTube that this video needs to be watched by more people. Also, you're going to want to go to chuckholton.com. Like I said, we're taking the substance of these lives, boiling them down using an AI, and writing a little article out of them that has all the salient points, all the statistics that I quote, all of the main points that I'm hitting, without all the fluff, without all my personal anecdotes and things like that. So you're going to want to go to chuckholton.com to get copies of those so you can check back through the notes and what was Chuck saying about this or that. You can go find it there. And we got a lot of extra content, and we're making more all the time, working on documentaries, working on more books, and putting up user-only content. This Thursday at noon Eastern time, I'm going to be doing a special phone call with my most ardent supporters on Locals. Those of you who are paying supporters will have access to this. And it's not a Zoom call, but it's like a Zoom call, as if you know what I'm talking about. It's a video conference where you'll be able to get online and actually speak with me, ask questions, make comments, etc. And I really look forward to seeing what some of you look like, because I like a lot of you guys, I wouldn't know you if you came up and slapped me in the face. And some of you, I mean, this happens on a fairly regular basis nowadays. When I'm going through an airport or walking down the street, people will come up to me and go like, "Hey, you're that guy," and I'm like, "Whoa, hello." That happened to us in the mall today when I was interviewing Doron Kedar. And that's great. I love running into supporters. We've had them show up at our church in Panama. People came like, "I heard that you lived here and I came up here to see what it was like." But you don't have to travel to come see me or just get lucky on the street. You just have to be a supporter over at chuckholton.com, and you can get on and talk with me on this call. That's Thursday, day after tomorrow, at noon Eastern time. I'll be on from here in Israel. And so that's just about now, I guess, about this time of day. So you're going to want to go over and sign up for that. Question: would Israel let you visit the outposts in Lebanon? I'm going to see. They won't let you into Lebanon without prior coordination, and I don't have time to try to jump through all those hoops this trip. But I am going to drive up to Jish and go see Shadi Kalul and kind of see how close I can get to the border up there. I've been right up to the border with Shadi before. Well, there was no cell service up there, but now I have the Starlink, so I may be able to go live from up there if there's anything interesting to show you. So that's great. All right, we are almost at an hour. Would the IDF let you take a plane ride with them? No. I think I can safely say no. That would be a no. If they won't let me take a car ride with them, they're not going to put me up in an airplane. Like I say, I mean, it's just spectacularly difficult for some reason to get any help from the IDF in terms of telling their story. So, thank you for watching. God bless you. Keep praying for Israel, and we'll see you next time.